Hey guys, this is Joy with Create It with Joy. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I have made 5 cards today in the shades of gray. I have really been wanting to do something like this and I finally got around to doing it, and there's a little pop of color on each card with the sentiment, and I really love how these turned out. I am using florals from Altenew, and I'm also using sentiments from Simon Says Stamp. So I have 2 gray colors that I'm using. I am using Distress Oxide ink in Hickory Smoke and Simon Hurley's Woof inks. I am using the flowers from Altenew, and some of these are the Build-A-Flowers where you've got like 4 different floral images that you stack one on top of the other to build this really dimensional flower. I am only going to be using 2 to build this. I didn't want a lot of detail. So right now I'm using the Woof ink from Simon Hurley. I am inking it up, stamping it off on a scratch piece of paper, and then I will do the second generation stamp onto the card. I have done 3 of these florals across this background. All these are cut slightly smaller than an A2 size card base, probably about 1/4 inch smaller on all the way around. So I stamped one of the images. Now I'm taking the next image in order, inking that up and barely stamping it off so it's a little bit darker than the one underneath. So again, I'm only doing 2 steps out of the 4 on the Build-A-Flower stamp sets from Altenew, if that makes sense. So I'm going to continue to stamp across this page. Now here I made a boo-boo. I did not stamp it off first. I'm lining it up and I inked it. And then in my brain I went, oh my gosh, Joy, what did you do? But actually, see how much darker that is? But actually it looked okay because the first one I did was darker than the center flower, and it actually turned out great, so I didn't freak out and I was like, we're just going to roll with it. It's a tiny bit of flower, no big deal. So this Build-A-Flower is Camellia something. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but I will have it in the description below. And I'm taking the leaves in that, and I'm only taking 1 leaf, stamping it off, and then adding it around. So some parts are darker, some parts are lighter. I really loved how these turned out. These were so fast and simple to make a bunch of these cards. Took me no time at all. So this would be a great way to put together like a little gift pack for somebody for a birthday or for Christmas or something. You could have thank you cards and birthday cards and get well cards, but you could do it all in this, and you've got a little pop of color with the help of your sentiment and like some liquid pearls or Nuvo crystal drops. So that part is done on that. And I have got Altenew's Tea Party and Shades of Purple. Also another one that I need to put down in the description below. And I started with the lighter color and it wasn't dark enough when I'm stamping the sentiment here. I've put this in my Misty. Thankfully, because I had to restamp, I picked the next darker color. And I'm stamping the word delightful. And that comes from this Build-A-Flower sentiment. And I'm stamping it up twice. I really wanted it to stand out on top of that gray image. Then Hope Your Day Is, and I'm going to stamp that with the same gray ink that I used, which was Simon Hurley's Woof ink. And I inked that up and I stamped it off on a piece of paper and it was too light. So I just decided to re-ink it again and just go with that dark color. I just didn't want anything to be too ridiculously dark on here. I really liked the subtleties of this. This was my first one that I did, so I kind of learned on the next ones, just go with it and move on. I'm attaching these all to an A2 size white card base, Nina Classic Crest Solar White. So now I'm going to add some liquid pearls, and it's in mint green because I did want a little bit more color on it, a few little embellishments, nothing too much because I really did like the subtlety of the gray background. So that one is done and beautiful. I think lately I've really been into making tons of cards at one time, especially with techniques like this. It really is super easy. You already have all the stuff out, so you might as well go for it. Okay, so this is Altenew's Build-A-Flower Crocus. And again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm picking 2 images out of the 4 images that you used to build this flower originally. And I'm kind of I think I'm using the 2 middle images. I'm not using the first one or the last one, because these kind of tend to have a lot of detail, and I liked that. So I'm just going to stamp that across the bottom in different heights, kind of different angles. I really liked how that looked. Here is the second one, and for this card I am using Distress Oxide ink in Hickory Smoke. Honestly, any gray colors would work. I had other gray inks that I just forgot to grab and just ended up using both of these. So for the second layer, I got the different stamp, inked it up, stamped it off a little lighter so it would still be darker. You could do this in your Misty if you felt like you needed to stamp again, but kind of that imperfection about how they stamp, I think, is part of the charm of these cards. Grabbing a leaf, just a part of a leaf from this stamp set. Sometimes you could barely see the leaf and other times it was darker. I really liked that. Normally I'm kind of a picky, a little, I wouldn't say perfectionist, but kind of about things, but I really liked the unevenness about the way that this stuff worked out and the way that this stamped out. Putting it back in my Misty, I am going to stamp this, and I can't remember which stamp set this is from, you guys, but I will have all the stamp sets below. But this says, "You bring happiness to my life." Happiness is stamped in one of the inks from Altenew's Tea Party mini cube sets, and it comes with 4 inks in it, light to dark. And then "You bring to my life," I am stamping in the same gray that I did the images in, which was Distress Oxide ink in Hickory Smoke. Stamping that full strength because it looks great. This is what I learned from my first one. Lining it up. I should have put it in my Misty, and I was feeling kind of lazy, so I'm glad I did not mess it up. I don't know about you guys, but do you sometimes feel lazy when you're doing things? Because I do. And then I am going to be using Coral, Liquid Pearls Coral, to add a little bit of some doodads around, some little embellishments. And I will be doing that on every card, kind of finding a matching color to put around. Again, I like all the white space on these cards. I think there's something elegant about it. Super simple and pretty. Okay, so now this is, is this Frost? I think this is Altenew's Frosted Garden. This does not have, you don't build upon these. These are just one images, which was totally fine. And I'm using the Woof ink from Hurley, and I'm just stamping it once, but when you stamp it off on your paper, some spots are still darker than others, and I really like that look. So I'm just filling in probably the top, a little more than half of this card base with these images from the Frosted Garden. There's leaves. It's little clusters of flowers with leaves and everything. And then I'm going to take, there's some little separate singular leaves that are open, that are not, colored in the way the flowers are. And I'm going to take that and kind of fill that in. So I'm stamping it off again, doing second generation stamping here. And I'm just going to kind of fill in some spots so doesn't have these big open areas. And kind of bring those leaves down to the bottom left of that card panel. So doing that a few times. And obviously this is your preference. You can do however you like it. Totally up to you. There's 2 sizes of those flowers, so I did a larger and a smaller one. And just filling that last flower in there. So now I'm using Lawn Fawn's Minty Fresh. I think this is probably the lightest sentiment that I have, but I really liked this color. Filling that in and using, this is the mint green. I apologize. The card before that was Liquid Pearls in Mermaid. This is mint green, and that one is done. I mean, look how fast that goes together, you guys. These are fantastic. Okay, so now this is Altenew's Sweetest Peas stamp set. Again, this is not one that you build upon, and these flowers are open. I still like how it turned out. So I'm using different ones from the set, just cleaning them using my Lawn Fawn chamois. and cleaning them in between. And using the different heights, there's different heights of flowers, how they're kind of curled over, so it works really great. But even if you had one floral image, you could do the same exact thing that I'm doing here. You're just going to do it at different heights. That's what I did with that second card that I made. It was the same image, I just did it at different heights and different angles, and it looks fantastic. So you don't need to have a full set of flowers to make this work for you. So just picking a few more, and I'm kind of going on an angle down on this card base. Some are up, some are down. I'm going to overlap some. I'm not worried about masking anything off at this point because I like this kind of transparent look that we're getting with this open image anyways. So going to stamp a few more on there. And again, I'm coming down in a diagonal using Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide ink, stamping it off and adhering it down. Then we are going to be using a sentiment that says, "Have a beautiful day." This is from Simon Says Stamp Beautiful Day stamp set, but I wanted the word beautiful to be in purple. This is in Shades of Purple from Altenew. They're little mini cubes. So I masked off the rest of the sentiment and stamped it in purple. And then "have a" and the word "day" will be stamped in the Hickory Smoke ink. Cleaning it off really good so I don't transfer any of that. That would be a nightmare. So I'm going to mask off the top now so I can stamp the word "day." Don't forget to take your mask off because, oh my gosh, I have made that mistake and I was not a happy girl. And then now we're going to, we're going to mask off the rest of it, and we will stamp the word "have a" in the gray ink. I left this in. I know it's a little bit long, but sometimes what seems obvious is not obvious to others. So I wanted to make sure I showed that process for you guys. And then that guy is done. We will attach him to an A2 sized card base, and I added blackberry in liquid pearls blackberry to that for some embellishments. Okay, on to the next card. This is Altenew's Painted Butterflies. This does where you can build upon the butterfly, so like the first one. So I just did two, I think there's 3 stamps for each butterfly. I just did 2, and I'm going to ink that up and stamp that across the top of my card. I'm using some big butterflies and some little butterflies. And I love this set. I've made 1 or 2 other cards with this set, and I think it's really quite beautiful and quite versatile in the way that you can make your cards look. So there's a big one, and then I'll find the other big piece to stamp on the inside. Even though there's a couple stamps, these butterflies are still quite open, and I do like that look. So I'm filling in these open spots with a little bit of this ink. And I think I am using the Simon Hurley Woof on this, but I can't quite tell. And here I am trying to figure out which piece goes to where. Sometimes I have a problem with these stacking ones. Stacking, filling in, what do you call them? Building stamps. So getting the last few in there. And I know it's hard to see you guys because it's gray, and I apologize for that. I probably should have had my camera in a little bit closer. So note to self for next time, that is what I will do. And I felt like this needed a little more, a little fuller of butterflies at the top. I originally was just going to do a few big ones and move on, but I liked how full it was. And if you've noticed that all of these cards, I have lined up these images different on the background panels, which is really nice. Some are at the bottom, some are across the middle, some are at the top, some are on an angle. And I think that can change up how you do your cards, where you're just placing your images. So you can have this whole, even if you use the same stamp set for all of these cards, if you lined them up, if the orientation of them were different on your background panel, that would make each card look very different. So I think there's lots of ways to make your stamps and things like that go further. So I'm going to finish up here. Sorry guys, this is a little bit long, but I really wanted to make sure you saw every part of this process, even though I know it's a little bit repetitive. Just in case you were feeling a little insecure about doing something, here we go. So now I'm going to stamp this using Spiced Marmalade Distress Oxide ink. I'm sure I've said it, but this is one of my most favorite colors. I like this kind of orangey color. And then I used Nuvo Crystal Drops in Sugared Almond. It's a little bit lighter. I had a darker orange, but I felt like it would be too much. So I used a little bit lighter orange to finish up that card. And again, everything is attached to an A2 size card base. And Nina Classic Crest Solar White. And I think these just turned out fabulous. I like what this sentiment says. It says, thank you, and then you're the best. And I'm pretty sure that is from Simon Says Stamp Tiny Words sentiment. I have used Simon Says Stamp Tiny Words, Beautiful Day, Thanks and Leaves, and Sketched Flowers for all of these sentiments, and some from the Altenew stamp sets that I've used. And I like that we've got this little collection of tons of cards to make. These would be a great gift for somebody. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed this card tutorial. I appreciate you. If you like what you've seen, please thumbs up, subscribe, share, comment. Please comment. I really do love your comments. I love all of your feedback. I hope that this inspires you to create something fun. I do have some affiliate links below. It does cost you nothing. It does help me. So thank you very much for all of your support, your love, your kindness, and I'll be back shortly. Thanks. Bye.